Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Psych 485 Industrial Behavior Analysis. Before we start, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your participation in the discussion. Your assignments have been really great overall. The discussion has been great overall. You're really thinking critically and going deep into the material I've been providing to you. So thank you for that. Really, participation thus far has been fantastic. Okay, so let's get into it. Chapter 3, Performance Management and Strategic Planning. So we've been talking a lot over the last few chapters about how performance management has to be linked with the strategic plan in order for the performance management initiative and the business in general, the organization in general, to be successful. So we're going to look at how to do that today, what that looks like. So we'll have a general overview, the definition and purposes of strategic planning. We're going to see how linking performance management to the strategic plan works. So the overall strategic planning, development of strategic plans at the unit level, job descriptions and how they should be written, individual and team performance and how that should be managed and rewarded. I think there are rewards in this chapter, although I don't remember at this time. And then how to build support within the organization for your new performance management system. Okay. So, the definition of strategic planning. So the strategic plan should describe the organization's destination, where it wants to be, where it is, and where it wants to go. Once you understand where you are and where you want to go, you can better understand how to get there. We're going to assess barriers that are in our way, any threats that may impede your organization's process. And once we do all these things, we can select the best approach for moving forward. We're also going to consider the goal. Okay, the goal of the strategic planning initiative and the performance management system that is linked to it is to allocate resources to provide the organization with a competitive advantage. Okay, a competitive advantage against other organizations in the same industry. So what's the purpose? Strategic planning helps define the organization's identity. Okay, it helps the organization better understand what it is and what it does. It helps the organization prepare for the future. And it enhances the ability to adapt to an environmental change. So like we were saying, any problems that may occur, strategic planning helps the organization to better overcome any challenges that may arise, better adapt to any changes in the industry or in the environment. And as you may be thinking, we live in a time where changes are the norm. Things rarely stay the same. As we just read in our discussion for last week, there's a new shift in technology towards more remote performance management monitoring systems. So strategic planning helps the organization better adapt to these changes in the environment, these changes in the industry. Okay, and when you engage in strategic planning, the organization develops a culture of cooperation. Okay, this sort of just develops in the process. You'll see that communication to all employees and managers involved in the organization and in the performance management process, this communication sort of breeds this culture of cooperation, and we'll get into that in a few slides. Okay, allows for the consideration of new options and opportunities. Again, this speaks to the notion that organizations will be better able to adapt when they engage in strategic planning. Okay, so let's move down to the overview of strategic planning. First, we have the environmental analysis, the mission, the vision, the goals, and the strategies. So we will look at each of these in a bit more detail. And I'm sorry if there's any long pauses. It's just because I'm shuffling through my notes here as my notes from the reading as I do this presentation. So let's get into the environmental analysis. So the analysis identifies external and internal trends. Again, you want to understand the industry. You want to understand where your organization needs to go in this industry, where it needs to go, where it needs to be, where it is, and where it needs to be. And you want to look at the big picture. So again, you don't want to have a narrow view of the industry, of the environment that will not allow the organization to make changes to adapt to the environment. You need to have a big picture, a broad view of the context. Okay, so you want to have a good handle on opportunities. So these are environmental changes, environmental characteristics that can help the organization succeed. Okay, when you better identify and anticipate for your opportunities that may arise, the organization will be in a better position to take advantage of them. And the opposite is true with threats. Well, I shouldn't say the opposite, but threats are similar in nature in that environmental characteristics that can prevent the organization from being successful. The organization needs to be aware of these as well, so it can avoid threats or adapt to them if they're unavoidable. Okay, so when you're looking at external trends being these opportunities and threats, you want to consider economic factors. Okay, you want to consider political and legal factors, changes in laws, changes in government, those who are making the laws, those who have some sort of control over the organization and the industry in which it operates, social factors that are changing, technological factors that are changing, which we discussed last week. What else? Changes in the status of any competitors, any rival organizations, customer base may be shifting or changing in some way. The suppliers, those who either provide raw materials to the organization or provide employees to an organization. Maybe you've heard the concept of feeder schools. If a school is changing in some way and an organization thinks that they'll have a drop in the employment pool, these could be suppliers. These could be considered suppliers in the same way that some suppliers supply raw materials. So this needs to be considered. Okay, so these were the external trends. You also want to look at internal trends, so the strengths and the weaknesses of the organization. So these are the internal characteristics that an organization can use for its advantage in the case of strengths, or characteristics that may hinder the success of the organization in the case of weaknesses. Okay, and with internal trends, you want to consider the organizational structure, the organizational culture, the politics of the organization, the processes that go on within the organization, and even just the size of the organization. So any of these factors can be either a strength or a weakness, depending on whether the organization sees these factors as useful for achieving a certain goal. Okay, so that about sums it up for environmental analysis. Please read a bit more about it in the textbook. It's a very, very important piece of the strategic plan. Okay, let's get on to gap analysis. So this is going to analyze the external environment. It's going to look at opportunities and threats by way of the internal environment. Okay. So really what we're doing here is we are sort of combining outside opportunities and internal strengths. Okay, we're combining the outside opportunities and internal strengths, and this determines the organization's leverage. Okay, and we're going to also look at the opportunities that are in the external environment and the weaknesses within the organization. And this is going to give us a handle on the organization's constraints. Okay, so opportunities and strengths, we're going to see the leverage of the organization, so sort of the competitive advantage that the organization has. And then we're also going to look at opportunities and weaknesses, which is going to show us the constraints that an organization has. Okay. Oh, actually, I don't want to move to mission yet. So with our environmental and gap analyses, organizations can use this information to decide who they are, so where they are in the greater picture of the industry, the big picture of the industry. It tells them where they are, who they are, and where they want to go, what they want to do. So again, this environmental and gap analysis is very important for determining the path that an organization needs to take to improve itself, be more successful. Let's move on to mission. So what does a good mission look like? A good mission is going to answer a few questions. The ones that you see here: why does the organization exist? What is the scope of the organization's activities? Who are the customers, and what are the products and services offered? Okay, so a mission statement contains, again, the basic product and service to be offered, the primary market and customer groups, so those people who support the organization, who provide capital to the organization, the benefits and the advantages of the products or services that make that organization unique. What sets that organization apart from others in the industry? It may also provide some information about the technology that the organization uses. Again, that unique technology that that organization uses that sets it apart. And it should say something about the concern for survival in the industry, concern for success in the industry. Okay. What else? So these things are necessary, and a mission statement may also contain something about the organization's values and beliefs. So the managerial philosophy, something about how that company operates, and the philosophy of something to do with culture within the organization, maybe the public image that the organization wants to have. What else? Self-concept of the business, so how that organization sees itself sort of in relation to the employees that support it. Okay. Let's move on to vision. So a vision is a statement of future aspirations that the organization may have. It focuses the attention on what is important in the here and now of the industry. So it focuses on, again, the theme keeps coming back, where the organization is and where the organization wants to be. So that's really what the vision is for. Okay. So some characteristics of a good vision statement: it should be brief. It should be verifiable. It shouldn't have information that the readers, the customers, the stockholders, whoever may be viewing this vision, they should be able to verify what's in that vision statement. It should be bound by a timeline. It should say we want to get here, or we want to do this by a certain time. It doesn't have to be extremely specific, but it should give people a general idea of when a certain aspiration is to be achieved. It should be current. It should say something about the current state of the organization. Again, it should say something about the current state of the organization and where the organization wants to be. It should be focused. It shouldn't be long and drawn out. It should be short and to the point. It should be understandable. It shouldn't be too wordy or too complex. It should be inspiring, which is important for buy-in from the managers and the employees. And again, it should be a stretch. A stretch meaning it should strive for something. It should say something about where the organization wants to be in the future. Okay. So let's move on to setting goals. So why do we want to set organizational goals? Well, organizational goals, they formalize the expected achievements of the organization. They provide motivation to employees and managers. So by formalizing achievements, formalizing expected achievements, and this provides tangible targets to the employees and managers within the organization. It provides the basis for good decisions to be made. So there's an endpoint in sight, there's a goal in sight. So understanding where the organization wants to be will better allow the organizational members to make good decisions on how to get there. Okay, and it provides a basis for performance measurement. So now we're getting down, we're bringing it down a level from the organization to the employee level, to the performance management system. When you have organizational goals, you're better able to set individual goals for employees within that performance management system. Okay. All right. So strategies can also be called game plans, or sort of the how-to procedures of the organization. So how an organization believes it will get to a certain goal. So strategies address the issues of growth, survival, turnaround, stability, innovation, and leadership. They address all of these points, again, to give the organization a better idea of how it's going to achieve certain goals. Okay, so how does HR contribute to this, to strategies? And really, this slide should say how HR and the performance management system contributes to the strategy of the success of the organization strategy. Okay, so the HR function and the performance management system communicates the knowledge of the strategic plan. If you remember from previous chapters, we said that the performance management meetings are a great opportunity for managers to sort of convey any messages that they would like the employees to hear. Okay, and HR function can also provide knowledge of the KSAs needed. When you have a strategy and a goal in sight, you can better provide employees with the knowledge, skills, and abilities they need to help the organization achieve the goal, to help the organization in their strategy to achieve a goal. Okay, and again, reward systems that can be tailored to the organization's strategy, that can be tailored to the organization's goal. Okay, let's look at strategic plans at the unit level. So within organizations, there are often units within that organization that sort of that have different tasks, that have different purposes. So every unit may have its own mission statement. It's not always the case, but every unit may have its own mission statement, its own vision statement, its own goals and strategies. But again, if they're too fragmented from the organization's mission, this may cause a problem. So the unit's mission statement, vision statement, goals, and strategies must align and be congruent with the overall organization's mission statement, vision statement, goals, and strategies, or else, as you can probably guess, the overall organization and the individual unit will go in different directions. They'll have different endpoints in mind, and this can cause problems. Certainly overall to the success of the organization, and it may cause problems with the performance management system. When you have different kinds of performance management systems for different people in different units, as we've discussed before, this can lead to some problems, some feelings of unjust treatment from the employees, or just overall dissatisfaction um, with a non-standardized performance management system. Okay, so here's a little visual aid that shows us the alignment of the strategic plan with performance. Okay, so we can see how the organization's strategic plan sort of starts at the top, sort of the overarching bubble there at the top, goes down to the unit strategic plan, which should be aligned with the organization's and the unit strategic plan. Then that goes down to the job description, tasks, and KSAs of the individual employees. And then when those are developed correctly and communicated correctly, they result in positive individual and team performance, good results, good behaviors, and a development plan that will help both the organization and the employees. So that's a good little visual aid there. Okay, our strategic consensus. So strategic consensus occurs when all of the units within an organization agree on a common set of strategic priorities. So again, we said that it's important for units to have their mission and vision statements aligned with each other and with the overall organization. So when this happens, it is likely to lead to greater, more positive performance, better performance on the part of the organization overall. Okay, so job descriptions. We're talking about tasks and KSAs now. And again, like we talked about, tasks and KSAs should be congruent with the organization and the unit strategic plan. So we should have those tasks and KSAs for individual employees aligned with the strategy of the organization and the unit, aligned with the goals of the organization and the unit. So employees are contributing to the success of the organization and the unit, and these should be communicated clearly. Okay. Oh, actually, there's something else I wanted to say about strategic consensus, so let's jump back one more time. So I wanted to say that there are two ways to achieve strategic consensus. There's developing strategies and then having this developing strategies first and then developing goals based on the strategies. Okay, that's one way. And then we have developing goals first and then developing strategies based on the goals. All right, so strategies first and then goals, or goals first and then strategies. And it's been found that strategies first and then developing goals based on the strategies better predicts the organization's performance. So developing goals first, then developing the strategies to meet those goals will lead to better performance in an organization. Okay. All right, then we talked about job descriptions, how tasks and KSAs should be aligned and congruent with the overall organization and the individual units. Okay. So let's move down to individual and team performance. Okay. So when an organization or a organizational unit has a solid mission and vision and a clear set of goals, organizations and units within organizations are better able to develop performance management systems that motivate employees and that align the employees' development plans with the priorities of the organization. So again, this is something actually we talked a lot about last week, or that y'all talked about a lot last week in the discussion board. Communication is key. So when we have mission statements, vision statements, and organizational goals, communication of these things to the employees is key, okay? If employees don't understand the direction of the organization, they don't understand why something is being done, whether it be a performance management system or something else, employees are not going to feel motivated. When development plans are not aligned with the organizational priorities, employees are going to feel as though they are not contributing to the success of the organization. They may have poor performance reviews because managers would like to see something that employees are not giving them. Employees think that they're supposed to be working towards some other direction. If the goals aren't communicated clearly, this can cause problems. So communication is key. Communication is key. Okay. So when you're designing a performance management system to fit the strategic plan, there are 6 critical components to consider. So we'd have to consider the criteria. Is it going to be a performance management system that's based on behavior or results? That's something to consider. Is it going to require low participation from employees or managers, or high participation from employees or managers? Is sort of the timetable short, or is it long term? Are goals within the performance management system short term or long term goals? Okay. The level of criteria. So are employees being judged on their own individual performance or the performance of a team or a group that they belong to? So different strategic plans of organizations are going to result in different performance management system design, and that's going to result in one or the other, individual versus team or group, or either of the sides of any of these options. Another one is system orientation. Is this a developmental system? Is this purely in place to help employees improve, or is the only goal an administrative oversight type of system? Okay, are we just monitoring performance, or are we helping employees perform and develop? It doesn't have to be one or the other either. It could certainly be, think of it as a continuum, with developmental on one side, administrative on the other, and it could be that way for any of these six choices. It could be a continuum, not just one or the other. Okay, so developmental versus administrative, and then we have rewards. Are employees going to be rewarded by their performance, or are they simply going to be paid more based on their tenure or their position, how long they've been there, or how high up they are in the organization? Okay, these are all important things to consider when designing a performance management system. Okay. Building support. So again, this slide is really about communication. It's really about communication. For top management, you're going to have to emphasize, you're going to have to tell them why. Why are we doing it this way? Why did we design the performance management system this way? So communicate to them that, look, this performance management system is carrying out the organization's mission, its vision. It's helping us achieve the goals that we set, okay? Because otherwise, what's going to happen? You're going to have managers that are saying, oh, why are we doing it this way? This maybe it doesn't make perfect sense on the face of it, but it does in the greater context of the organization. But if it doesn't make sense to the managers, they're not going to go along with it. They're not going to buy into it. They're not going to participate in it. Excuse me, in a productive way. Okay. Support from all levels. Again, involving employees in the process. Having employees, it should be sort of an equal contribution from employees and managers. Employees should be just as involved in the performance management process and the design and implementation of the performance management process as the managers are. Okay, so opinions, feelings about the process should be gathered from the employees, or else they're not going to have buy-in. They're not going to feel like they contributed to it at all. They're going to feel like autonomy is being restricted if they have no involvement in the process. So again, communicating to everyone, communicating with everyone, and involving everyone in the process is going to build a lot more support for the performance management process. Okay, so a quick review. We looked at the definition and the purposes of strategic planning. Very important to know all the components of a strategic plan. So please review that. Please review that in your book a little bit more. We linked performance management to the strategic plan. So we showed how the development of a performance management system can be linked to a strategic plan, how it should be linked to a strategic plan. Okay, and then we looked a little bit at building support for the performance management system, and in turn, this will help the organization achieve its goals, carry out a strategic plan. So that's about it. Please, again, as always, please do the reading, look over all this in a bit more detail. And that's about it. I will see